What if I told you that you know nothing about the daily life of the Vikings? Today we will talk about 9 forgotten grains that the Vikings ate. We imagine Vikings as fearless warriors with axes and swords, conquering the seas on their drakas. But we rarely think about what fueled their incredible strength and endurance. The real weapons of the Northerners, which allowed them to survive in the harsh climate and conquer half the world, were not only steel and courage.
The waves rose like mountains, higher than any longship, and the Midgard serpent waited beneath the churning foam.
Their secret strength grew right out of the ground. It was grains that are forgotten today, hardy and nutritious. These crops were the foundation of their world, feeding their families during long winters and providing energy for long journeys. They were far more important than any sword. Watch this video to the end to find out why modern nutritionists consider the return of these ancient grains to our diet a real revolution in healthy eating, and which of them was considered a sacred gift from the gods. I will reveal the most closely guarded secret of the Viking Age, one that changes everything. We are used to seeing the image of the Viking warrior, but this image is incomplete without the Viking farmer. It was the land, not the sea, that was the true heart of their civilization and the source of their power. Every expedition, every battle was only possible because somewhere far away, on the rocky fjords, there were people cultivating the barren northern land. Their daily labor was no less heroic than their military exploits. They fought against the cold, the rocky soil, and the short summer. Agriculture was the center of their universe, determining the rhythm of life. In the spring, they went out into the fields to sow seeds in the ground, and in the fall, they harvested the crops on which the survival of the entire clan depended. This cycle was sacred and unchanging. The Vikings were not just farmers, they were innovators of their time. They learned to create terraces on mountain slopes, drain swamps, and use algae as fertilizer. Their agricultural techniques were simple, but incredibly effective. Their fields were not endless plains, but small plots of land reclaimed from nature. Every piece of fertile soil was worth its weight in gold. They grew crops that could withstand the harsh climate and produce a harvest even in the coldest summers. This close connection to the land shaped their character, patient, persistent, and incredibly resilient. The strength of a warrior was born from the strength of a farmer who knew the value of every grain. Without this foundation, their famous drakas would never have left their native shores. They understood that true wealth was not gold from plundered monasteries, but grain in the barns. Gold could be lost, but the land and the harvest would always provide the opportunity to survive the winter and raise a new generation. This wisdom was the basis of their longevity. Modern historians are increasingly inclined to believe that it was agricultural innovations that allowed the Vikings to begin their expansion. Increased crop yields led to population growth, which made their native lands too crowded. Thus, the farmer gave birth to the warrior.
By rotating the crops, the soil retains its strength.
Even on the terraces above the fjord.
Their prosperity was built not on plunder, but on sustainable farming. Raids were only a means of obtaining additional resources, but the foundation always remained what grew in their fields. This truth is much more complex and interesting than popular myths. I'm very interested to hear your point of view. What do you think was more important to Viking society, the role of the warrior or the farmer? Write about it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Are you ready to learn the truth about the daily bread of Scandinavian sailors? If the Vikings had only one grain, it would undoubtedly be barley. This unpretentious and hardy crop was the true king of their fields and tables. Barley could grow where other grains died from cold and lack of sun. It produced a stable harvest even on the poor, rocky soils of the northern regions. For the Vikings, it was not just a plant, but a guarantee of survival. Barley flour was used to bake dense, coarse bread, which formed the basis of their diet. This bread was not like our fluffy loaves. It was hard, nutritious, and could be stored for weeks. It was these flatbreads that warriors took with them on long campaigns. Another important dish was barley porridge. It was cooked in water or milk, with nuts, berries, or pieces of meat added for flavor and sustenance. This food provided a lot of energy and satisfied hunger for a long time. But the main reason the Vikings valued barley was for ale. They brewed their famous foamy drink from barley malt, which was not just a means of entertainment, but an important part of their culture. Ale was drunk at feasts and during religious rituals. This drink was also an important source of calories and nutrients. In conditions where clean drinking water was not always available, low-alcohol ale was a safer alternative. It warmed in the cold and gave strength. Barley was a versatile product that was used from start to finish. The straw was used as bedding for livestock and for roofing. No part of the harvest went to waste. But what if I told you that the Vikings' most sacred plant was not a grain at all? In the next chapter, we will reveal the secret of a wild herb that was considered a gift from the gods and valued more than gold. Something you've never seen before, a plant that was food, medicine, and a sacred talisman for the Vikings. We're talking about angelica, a wild plant with a strong stem and fragrant leaves. Its importance in northern culture cannot be overstated. The Vikings not only cultivated fields, but were also skilled gatherers. Forests and meadows were as much a source of sustenance for them as arable land. Angelica was the jewel of this wild garden.
These herbs are good for the winter stores.
This plant was so highly valued that some Scandinavian laws of the time imposed severe penalties for stealing it from someone else's land. Angelica was even used as a means of payment. Its bunches were a kind of green currency. Almost all parts of the plant were used for food. Young stems were eaten raw or boiled. They had a sweet, spicy taste. The leaves were added to soups and stews for flavor. Angelica roots were used to make flour, which was mixed with grain to bake bread. This not only saved precious grain, but also gave the bread a special taste and medicinal properties. It was considered a plant that gave strength and health. Angelica was the main medicine of the Vikings. Decoctions from its roots and leaves were used to treat colds, digestive problems, and to strengthen the body. Sailors took dried angelica with them on voyages to prevent disease. There was a belief that angelica protected against evil spirits and black magic. Bunches of it were hung in homes and on ships as a talisman. It was believed that its aroma drove away all evil. The history of angelica shows how wisely the Vikings used the gifts of nature. They did not separate food, medicine, and magic. For them, it was all part of a single world. And this plant was one of the main symbols of their harmony with the harsh northern nature. What if everything you've been taught about warrior nutrition is outdated? We often imagine a Viking table laden with meat, but the basis of their endurance was grains. And one of the main fighters on this agricultural front was rye. Rye is the embodiment of the northern character. It is even more undemanding than barley and can survive in the most extreme conditions. It is not afraid of poor sandy soils or cold, rainy summer months. That is why rye became the main crop in those regions of Scandinavia, where conditions were too harsh even for barley. It was insurance against hunger, the plant of last hope. Its ability to yield a harvest where everything else perished was valued incredibly highly. Rye flour was used to bake dark, dense, and slightly sour bread. This bread did not go stale for a very long time, which made it ideal for storage and long journeys. Loaves of rye bread were the staple food on dracars. Rye bread is incredibly filling. Thanks to its high fiber content, it is slowly digested, providing the body with energy for a long time. For warriors and sailors, whose days were filled with hard physical labor, this was vital. In addition, rye was important for crop rotation. The Vikings understood that it was impossible to plant the same crop on the same field year after year. Alternating barley, rye, and other plants allowed them to maintain soil fertility. Like barley, rye was used to make low-alcohol beverages such as kvass. This drink was excellent for quenching thirst and was more beneficial than plain water of dubious quality. It also contained vitamins and helped maintain strength. Why have we almost completely switched to wheat today, forgetting about this hardy and healthy grain? In the next chapter, we will talk about the grain that was the main fuel for long journeys and exhausting battles.
Look to the rye, for it is the strength of our people. It sees us through the darkness and brings us to the light.
When we think of oatmeal, we imagine a healthy breakfast. For the Vikings, however, oats were not just food, but strategic fuel. It was a grain that provided quick and long-lasting energy, which was essential for warriors and explorers. Oats, like rye, are well suited to cold and wet climates. They did not require as much care as other grains and often grew on the edges of fields, but their value was enormous. The main dish made from oats was, of course, porridge. Thick, hearty oatmeal cooked in water was a standard morning meal. It was quick to prepare and provided energy for many hours to come. Oatmeal was the perfect food before battle or a long journey. The carbohydrates in oats release energy slowly, maintaining stable blood sugar levels. This allowed warriors to maintain their strength and endurance for long periods of time. In addition to porridge, oat flour was used to make flatbread and thin crisp bread, similar to modern crackers. These flatbreads were light, took up little space, and could be stored for a long time. They were an indispensable part of the marching ration. Oats were also the main feed for horses. The hardy Scandinavian horses that carried riders into battle and pulled heavy loads needed high-calorie food. Oats were perfect for this purpose. Sometimes oats were also used for brewing beer. Oat ale was milder and sweeter than barley ale. It was not as common, but was prized for its distinctive taste. Thus, the humble oat was the real driving force of the Viking era. It fueled their campaigns, gave strength to their warriors, and endurance to their horses. Without this simple grain, the history of the Scandinavian conquests might have been very different. Want to know a secret that will change your perception of bread? Long before modern wheat took over the world, our ancestors valued its wild and stronger relative, Spelt. For the Vikings, this ancient grain was a symbol of strength and reliability, like their famous wall of shields. Spelt is one of the oldest types of wheat that has not been hybridized. Its grain is protected by a tough shell that protects it from pests and preserves all its nutrients. This natural armor made it a very hardy crop. Although Spelt was more demanding on the soil than barley or rye, the Vikings valued it for its high nutritional value. Bread made from Spelt was more aromatic and tastier than bread made from other grains. It was considered food for special occasions and for noble warriors. Due to its unique protein structure, Spelt is easier for the body to digest than modern wheat. Many people with gluten intolerance can eat Spelt products without negative consequences. The Vikings, of course, did not know this, but intuitively sensed its benefits. Spelt is rich in protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. It contains all the essential amino acids, making it a complete source of protein. This was extremely important for warriors who needed strength and rapid muscle recovery. Growing Spelt was a sign of a prosperous farm. If a farmer could afford to set aside a field for it, it meant that his basic needs for barley and rye were already covered. It was a kind of mark of quality. In addition to bread, crushed Spelt was used to make hearty porridges similar to modern bulgur. These porridges were not only nutritious but also very tasty. They were often prepared with the addition of mushrooms, roots, and forest herbs. The tough shell of Spelt, which was difficult to remove, also had its advantages. Grain in such a shell could be stored for a very long time without losing its properties. This made Spelt a strategic reserve in case of a hungry winter or a long siege. In the next chapter, we will talk about a plant that provided the Vikings not only with food, but also with strong fabric for the sails of their famous ships. We know flax as a material used to make clothing and the famous sails of the drakkars. But for the Vikings, this plant was also an important source of food. Its small seeds were a real concentrate of energy and health. Growing flax was a complex and labor-intensive process. However, its dual purpose, fiber and seeds, made it one of the most valuable crops. Every part of the plant was put to use. After harvesting, the flax stalks were sent for processing to obtain fiber. The small seed pods were carefully collected and dried. Flaxseed was as important a product as grain. Flax seeds were eaten whole or ground into flour. This flour was added to dough for bread and flatbread, enriching it with protein and healthy fats. This made baked goods more filling and nutritious. Whole seeds were added to porridge and soups. They gave the dishes a pleasant, nutty flavor and made them thicker. It was a simple way to increase the calorie content of the diet. But the main treasure was flaxseed oil. It was obtained by cold pressing and was the most important source of fat in the Viking diet, especially in regions where animal food was scarce. It was used for cooking, added to food, and used to fill lamps. Flaxseed oil is a champion in terms of omega-3 fatty acid content. Today we know that these acids are essential for brain, heart, and vascular health. By consuming this oil, the Vikings intuitively protected themselves from many diseases. The history of flax is an example of the Vikings' amazingly rational and waste-free economy. They knew how to get the most out of every plant, and the small flax seed played a huge role in their world, providing food, light, and clothing. The myth of the Vikings paints them as exclusively meat-eaters, feasting on huge chunks of roasted meat. However, the truth is much more prosaic and interesting. Their most important source of protein was not only meat and fish, but also humble legumes. Peas and horse beans were an integral part of the Viking vegetable garden. These crops were perfectly adapted to the northern climate. Not only did they provide a nutritious harvest, but they also enriched the soil with nitrogen, increasing its fertility. Legumes were the meat of the poor for the Vikings, and the main source of protein in times when meat and fish were unavailable. Dried peas and beans could be stored throughout the winter, saving people from starvation. They were a strategic protein reserve.
Finest beans in the 5 boroughs, mistress. 2 silver rings for the sack.
1.5, and I'll take some peas too.
Done.
The main dish made from legumes was a thick soup or porridge. Dried peas were boiled down to a puree, adding herbs, roots, and, if lucky, a piece of bacon or smoked meat for flavor. Such food was cheap, easy to prepare, and very filling. Pea and bean flour was also widely used. It was mixed with grain flour when baking bread. This not only saved grain, but also significantly increased the protein content of the final product. Legumes were indispensable in the sailors' diet. Bags of dried peas took up little space, but made it possible to cook hot, protein-rich food during long sea voyages. This helped to maintain the strength and health of the crew. The combination of grains and legumes in the Viking diet was incredibly wise This combination provides the body with all the essential amino acids, creating a complete protein that is not inferior in value to animal protein. So the next time you see a painting of a Viking feast, imagine a large pot of steaming pea soup next to the roasted meat. This image will be much closer to historical truth. The strength of the Vikings lay not only in cultivated grains, but also in their deep knowledge of the wild. Forests, swamps, and even weeds on the side of the road were a source of food and medicine for them. And the queen of this wild garden was the common nettle. In early spring, when winter supplies were running low and the new harvest was still far away, it was nettles that saved them from vitamin deficiency. Its young shoots were among the first to appear from under the snow. It was the first gift of awakening nature. The Vikings gathered young nettles and used them to make soups and stews. After being scalded with boiling water, they lost their sting and became tender and tasty. They taste similar to spinach, but are much richer in nutrients. Nettles are a real treasure trove of vitamins and minerals. They contain huge amounts of vitamin C, iron, calcium, and carotene. For people who had survived a long winter on a meager diet, nettle soup was a real elixir of life. In addition to nettles, many other wild plants were used for food. For example, quinoa, which we consider a weed, was used in the same way as nettles. Its leaves and seeds were edible and nutritious. Wild sorrel was also gathered, which added a pleasant sourness to dishes and was a source of vitamin C. Young dandelion leaves, burdock roots, and many other herbs, roots, and berries were used. This knowledge was passed down from generation to generation. Wild herbs were not only food, but also medicine. The Vikings were well aware of the healing properties of plants and used them to treat various ailments. It was their natural pharmacy, always available and free of charge. Such active use of wild plants made the Vikings' diet much more varied and rich than we can imagine. They received a wide range of vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients, which strengthened their health and immunity. This ability to find food literally under their feet was a key survival skill. It gave them stability and independence from the harvest. Even in the hungriest year, the forest could feed those who possessed ancient knowledge. Today we call this the trendy term, foraging. For the Vikings, however, it was an integral part of their lives, further proof of their close and harmonious connection with the world around them. We have taken a journey into the past and seen what nourished the strength of the legendary northern warriors. But the story of these forgotten grains is not just a trip down memory lane. It is an important lesson for our present and future. Modern agriculture has focused on a few high-yielding but refined crops, mainly wheat. We have gained abundance but lost diversity and nutritional value. Our ancestors ate much healthier food. Ancient grains such as barley, rye, oats, and spelt contain much more fiber, protein, vitamins, and minerals than their modern descendants. They have not been subjected to intensive breeding, retaining their natural power. Their glycemic index is lower, which helps maintain stable energy levels. Bringing these crops back into our diet is a simple step toward better health. Replacing white bread with whole grain rye or spelt bread, adding barley to soups, eating oatmeal for breakfast. All of these things help strengthen the heart, improve digestion, and control weight. In addition to personal health benefits, the revival of ancient grains also has global significance. These crops are more resilient and less demanding than modern wheat. They can grow in poor soils and require less fertilizer and water. Increasing biodiversity in our fields makes the agricultural system more resilient to climate change and disease. When we depend on one or two crops, we become very vulnerable. The Vikings understood this and grew a variety of plants in their fields. Today, chefs and healthy eating enthusiasts around the world are rediscovering the taste and benefits of forgotten grains. Bakeries are popping up that bake bread according to old recipes. This trend is not just a fad, but a conscious return to our roots.
Things. We're seeing clear health benefits, higher fiber content, more vitamins, and a lower glycemic IDU.
Incorporating these ancient grains into modern diets can significantly improve health and prevent chronic diseases, mirroring the wisdom of the past.
These ancient grains offer significantly higher fiber. Ancient grains like barley and oats offer significantly higher fiber and vitamins. This is the foundation of...
The wisdom of the Vikings lay in their ability to live in harmony with nature and take the best from it. They did not look for easy ways out, but valued what was reliable, nutritious, and sustainable. Their diet was perfectly suited for survival and prosperity. By studying their diet, we understand that exotic superfoods are not necessary for health and strength. The most valuable things often grow right under our feet, as they did in the days of the Vikings. We just need to remember this forgotten heritage. So next time you stand in front of the bread shelf, remember the fierce northern warriors. Perhaps the secret to their longevity and strength was not in their swords, but in a dark slice of rye bread. And today, this secret is available to each and every one of us.
Raise your horns high, for the night is young and the feast is plenty. Hail the Ulfar!
We see that behind the image of a ruthless warrior lay a wise farmer and connoisseur of nature. The true strength of the Vikings grew from the earth, from the very grains they worked so hard to grow in the rocky northern fields. Barley, rye, oats, and wild grasses were the foundation of their civilization. Their experience teaches us the importance of dietary diversity and a sustainable relationship with nature. The forgotten grains of the Vikings are not just relics of the past, but the key to a healthier future for us and our planet. Which fact about the Vikings' diet surprised you the most? Perhaps it was their use of nettles or the sacred status of angelica? Suggest topics for future videos you would like to see on our channel in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.